Welcome to another Saturday night with Taking It to the Nub, and I am your host, Boston Jimmie. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing once again to Taking It to the Nub, the owner of Casa Cuevas Cigars, Luis Cuevas, and his son, Alec. And we're going to get right into this in a moment when we talk about my number one cigar of the year, the Patrimonio by Casa Cuevas. We're going to talk all about this, and we're going to talk about how this came to be, and then we'll get into some other topics as we go through. But let me bring in Alec and Luis. Gentlemen.
How are you?
How are you?
We're doing great. We're doing great. At least I am over here. I know Alec is in Miami. I'm a little bit far away here, but honored to be here, my friend. Honored.
So I imagine you are smoking a Jewish date. No.
I love it. Got to be smoking the Patrimonio. Actually, I smoke a hell of a lot of it. I just do, regardless of the accolades. It's just become my go-to lately.
I can vouch for that. It might even be one of my father's favorite from our lines is the Mondaria, the sledgehammer, and Patrimonio could be the runner-up to that. It might be taking the mantle.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll tell you what, I'm going with the Patrimonio. Okay, I mean this cigar, man, when you gave it to me at TPE unbanded, just to say, Jimmie, just check this out. Mm-hmm. I just sat there last year smoking that, and I smiled. I was like, this is beyond normal for you guys. This has got something special.
Yeah. When
I got the official review samples, the production run, I was blown away with the profile. Just everything about that cigar just put me in a zone. And then I said, well, maybe it's just a moment. You know, sometimes you smoke a cigar and you're in a moment and you're like, yeah, it's great. So then I waited and I smoked it again, and it was just as darn good. And that one I actually paired with a dirty martini, which, by the way, really goes well with a dirty martini. Gin. Just convinced of that. I'm going to pair it. I'm going to try pairing it with what I got left of my Balvenie.
Ah, the Balvenie. Had quite a bit of that during the Christmas holiday. Every last drop of it. Actually, that's what my cousin just gave me right now. So
you're drinking some Balvenie?
Yes.
So you would recommend? So I haven't tried this with whiskey.
I'd recommend it highly. I think bourbon, and I'm not a big bourbon guy per se. Bourbon pairs better, I think, but this goes very well with it.
Well, there's no more of this left. They just poured it in the glass. So
it's very, very smooth. You'll see. You'll see.
How about you, Alec? What are you pairing it with anything?
Well, I'm actually nice and simple today. I'm drinking water.
No.
You know, had I known everybody would have been drinking such infamously great drinks at this moment, maybe I would have poured myself something, but I figured why not stay hydrated. So here I am. However, I would say though that I do in particular love Scotch. I do love a Glenlivet with the Patrimonio.
Alec, there's Aberfeldy right around the corner where you're at. Mm-hmm. There's a bottle of unopened Aberfeldy in case you want.
Well, if anything,
I know we're doing this now, just letting you know.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So now that we got all the great introductions out of the way, nice round of golf, you said. So you're having a great time.
Second half.
You had a good holiday.
Yes.
Everybody. No major issues, right?
Thank God.
Thankfully.
Good. So let's talk about the Patrimonio itself. you're five. The company is basically, there's like 5 generations that go through this thread of Casa Cuevas going back to Cuba and growing tobacco. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
And this is a celebration of your father, Luis, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But a celebration of the family as a whole too.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, the word patrimonio is essentially something that's passed down in the paternal line. And since my great grandfather had started the whole thing, my grandfather, then my dad, myself, and now my son, it seemed like an appropriate name to give to a cigar because it meant something to us. But ultimately, it was an homage to my dad. Between Alec and myself, and in the end, it was pretty much Alec's baby. But it, you know, we're very surprised with the accolades and humbled at the same time. And I say that constantly because we really feel like, oh my gosh, really? So many great cigars out there. And wow. So it's really cool. It's really cool.
Now you said that Alec, this is his baby. All right.
Yep.
So I remember Alec when a few years ago came on the scene and he was getting his hands dirty and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got your hands all over this blend, Alec. Talk a little bit about your background and what got you into the blending of this particular cigar.
So what initially carried forth was I had a discussion with my father and my grandfather about trying to release something new onto the scene of things. But in regards towards what we have in our lineup, we wanted something in particular that was different. Now, and I'll give you a little anecdote in a second in regards towards my grandfather and the blend, which I think you'll get a kick out of. But the whole process behind it was that we wanted this cigar to stand out. And with that in mind, for the wrapper, it's the first ever time we actually use a Corojo wrapper, specifically from Honduras, which is something that we were thrilled about. The binder is a Habano binder from Ecuador, and the filler also has something interesting as well, which sets it apart from the rest of what we got, which is Nicaraguan filler as well as Dominican, and it also has Peruvian filler, which is, I think, the thing that shocks people the most. And you'll definitely end up getting that flavor profiling about halfway through the stick. We consider the cigar to be the creeper. That's actually, I remember this distinctly because when my father gave it to you, he mentioned it like that as well. And although I don't know what your impressions are of it as of yet, that tends to stay true to its nickname for the most part. And with this entire process, it was a lot of back and forth because at the time, me and my father couldn't go to the factory to actually make the blend. We'd have to wait a couple weeks for my grandfather to come back down with the blends in particular. And we would go around, meet up early in the morning. He lives about a block away from our actual house down here in Miami. And we would smoke all the blends to see how we felt about it. Now, the first initial bout of the cigars and the first blend that we decided, we were extremely thrilled about. It was, in all honesty, a chest kicker. And something that me and my father just particularly enjoyed. But in regards towards my palate, I felt as if it separated it completely from what we had in the line. Now, the catch was we let it sit for about a month. Coming back to it, the cigar lost all of that strength. And it completely took me by shock. At this point, my father was in the office at the time, and I was smoking it with a good friend of ours, Gabriel Piñeres, who happened to pass by at the office. And he remembers the look on my face. I was utterly shocked. I immediately started going to this mini panic, for lack of a better term. I had to go back to the drawing board to kind of, come back to the circle and see what else we can do with this blend. So fast forward, we start playing with the blends a little bit more. And that's when my grandfather finally chimes in. And I love the man to death. He's taught me a good majority of what I know beyond what my father's taught me. This blend is actually one of the first that I've ever heard him say, I'm not a genuine fan of it. And it's because of my grandfather and how he likes his consistency. He's a Connecticut smoker through and through. He likes the cigars to be very well balanced, which is why you can find that in a lot of our product. But like I finished mentioning, we wanted something completely out of the wheelhouse. So it was a little bit of a challenge to kind of get him to formulate something that in particular appeased him and to the same token appeased what I and my father were looking for. And lo and behold, the Patrimonio was born. Like my father finished mentioning as well, to piggyback on this, the accolades, or rather the feedback that we received on it was astounding. It was something that we did not know would come from this blend. So much so that a good portion of the issues from this happened to be the actual production of the boxes as well as the bands, because the blends were created and ready to go by the time we saw you actually at the trade show. Going forward, though, the issue became the boxes and, of course, the bands. So we were essentially doing these sales on these cigars in terms of it being a pre-sale, and just hoping that consumers would genuinely enjoy it based off what they picked up at the trade show. And that's why the accolades behind it is so astounding to us. And I'm sure my father can speak more about this as well, but it's something that I'm extremely thrilled about. I also don't like to say that I'm just the creator of Patrimonio on my own sake of things. I did want something completely out of the wheelhouse, something different. And I succeeded in that, but it was genuinely due also to my father's input as well as my grandfather's. What I've noticed the most, though, during the project, which actually I find very befitting for the name Patrimonio, was that my grandfather holds me to very high regards. I used to work at Neptune Cigars for close to about a year. So I had the pleasure of essentially being a kid in a candy shop. I mean, I was smoking all types of different blends from many different companies.
Always a pleasure, right?
Always, always a pleasure. It was a great time. I learned plenty with that team when I was with them. So kudos to them, truthfully, for getting me genuinely into the mix of exploring the different blends that there are available out in the industry. But with that in mind, my grandfather during this entire project really relied heavily on my palate. And he says, what do you genuinely think about this? How would you like to proceed with this? Is this what you're going for? I know you're not a fan of bitterness, but if we add a little bit of bitterness, which the Corojo wrapper does actually add, as a matter of fact, how would this take? How would this work with the Peruvian we've included? How would you like to? And that was a little bit of a shock to me to see that coming out of my grandfather, because he would mention it time and time, but to see it in action, it just really hit me on a different level. One that made me genuinely feel as if I'm now, not to say I haven't been fully into this. I've been in this with my father now for a good, 4 years, right? But just to kind
I think your grandfather now is comfortable that the baton gets handed to you sometime down the road, and he's okay. The kid's grown up a little, he understands now things, and you've done something, like you said, out of the box. What was the magic change, though? I mean, you worked with your grandfather and your father, and you had this first one was like, oh my God, what happened? What was the magical change that you did in the blend that made this happen?
That really solidified it. So when we went back to the drawing board, I like the fact that it carries a Habano binder. I think if anything else, that's essential to the blend. That's the reason that towards the end of the smoke, it becomes closer to a full-bodied cigar. Now, it's not the strongest thing out there, and yes, it's not a chest kicker, which is technically what I kind of wanted within the drawing boards of things. But even beyond that, changing the blend, I knew I couldn't go on ahead and change the wrapper. Right off the bat, it's something brand new, something that we've never used before, so I wanted to keep it. It was essential. Same with the Habano. It gave it this nice profile to begin with. And that was a nice base to start off from. Now, where everything mellowed out was what I was assuming, the filler. And then that's when we went back to the drawing board. I asked my grandfather, hey, what else can we formulate together? He came back down with a couple different blends, and me and my father smoked about a good 7 other blends before it came into fruition. And with that, the inclusion of Peruvian was already there, but it was such a minute percentage the first time around. And with everything else also included in there, we knew that we could change the flux of things to see how it would become. So I asked my grandfather, add a little bit more Peruvian, maybe take out a tad bit more of the Dominican, and instead keep the Nicaraguan the same. And sure enough, we stumbled across a blend that I think, we were definitely thrilled with it. And or at least hopefully I can speak for the consumer bases that a lot of them are thrilled as well.
Well, I could tell you right now, based on those that are watching and the comments I'm getting right now, Tyler Garcia, one of my followers out there in the Kansas area, said,
yeah. Hi, Tyler.
Folks, all of the Patrimonios we got at the shop.
I love to hear that.
Tim Long says, my good friends, the Cuevas family. Let's see what else. There was another one in here. Tim Long continues to say, this cigar is phenomenal. it was my number 2 for 2021. Tim,
Yeah.
wrong. It's number 1. But I feel good that I sometimes that I go through these things, and I always stress out when I do top lists and things, because people get, some people don't care, other people do, other people take it too serious, and they start arguing about it, and I knew when I smoked this there's nothing going to compare to this. There's some that got close and things, but this just was unbelievably special and memorable. And it's like one of those cigars where you go into a shop a year from now and you're looking on a shelf and you're like going, I want a Patrimonio. It's there. I'm going to grab that cigar. I remember that cigar.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been really taken aback by how well it's been received. I mean, especially with that lapse that we had between May and August when they finally hit the shelf. So, you're promising all these folks in May these cigars, and now you're back ordered for months on end, box issues or not, you're back ordered, and they still wanted it. And then people smoked it, and then it became a pretty good thing in our portfolio. And I'm thinking, wow, how fortunate are we? How cool is it to be able to come out with something like that? And Alec sort of sells himself a little bit short. Alec is a phenomenal asset based on what he smoked. He has certainly smoked a broader spectrum of cigars than I ever have, because of having worked at Neptune's. They encourage him to essentially smoke through everything that everyone has in every line, because it makes sense. A consumer walks in and says, hey, I want to smoke this. And Alec says, hey, in that flavor profile, you should try this. Don't give that one up. Smoke it anyway, but try this one also. And once that consumer starts trusting that tobacconist, which is what Alec essentially becomes at that point, then sales increase and get better. So the same thing occurs when we're doing an event and someone shows up, never heard of the brand, and we have a variety of things to smoke. And Alec's first question is, what do you smoke? I smoke this brand. Okay, I'll tell you what. If you like that flavor profile, try this from us. I think it's going to be right up your alley. That kind of thing. I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm more narrow. I can do it if I've heard of the brand and I have an idea, but Alec has actually smoked it. And then he'll get into these intricate conversations with these people about, when they launched it and when they did this and this one and this other iteration of it. I mean, he does a lot of stuff that I can't do because I haven't smoked as many you would think I would, because I'm in the industry. But people in the industry smoke their own stuff, guys. I smoke my own stuff. I don't go around buying a lot of other cigars. And friends in the industry give me cigars, and that's the way I get to try them. But actually, a lot of personal friends give me cigars too, and that's always a blessing as well. But still, the number and variety of cigars that Alec has smoked, I can't even come close to, and it makes a huge difference. It just does.
So I'm gonna do something I don't normally do, only because of the segue of this conversation. And I prepared nothing for this conversation other than I know you personally. I've known you for a long time. I've known Alec and met him at the show, and your family and everybody is just beautiful. But I'm going to put Alec a little on a spot right now based on this conversation. So let's say, Alec, you're still at Neptune Cigars. I walk into Neptune Cigars and you say to me, what do you know? What do you like? What's one of your favorite cigars? And I say to you, the Casa Cuevas Patrimonio. You ain't got that. What are you putting me on?
So that's actually, you know what, considering the podcasts we've done, that is the first I've ever been asked that. Normally it's the other way around, which I genuinely appreciate. It helps me gather my bearings here and think. So, you know what, in regards towards strength, if you're looking for something in regards towards the strength profile, I'd go on ahead and I'd put you on something similar to an AJ San Latano. Now, the reason I say that is because, in my opinion, that cigar carries the Habano edition, mind you, so the green band. It carries this phenomenal transition, and it might be similar in regards towards strength. I do know that the San Latano carries a bit more spice, but when that transition kicks, that same change you get within the Patrimonio is something that would definitely fit the bill. That's right off the bat. And that's something that I can tell based off the strength. So I would say that's a similarity there. If you're looking for something more towards the bitterness, and as a matter of fact, I'd go on ahead and guide you something towards Oliva, the Melanio series. The Serie V is a phenomenal smoke in its own end, in its own right as well. Though its consistency is something that you can't necessarily find in the Patrimonio, considering it does go through a transition period, that bitter flavor, but it's not overwhelming. You just get a tip of your tongue. That is something that is consistent and something that I find extremely delectable with that cigar that I'd pair up also with the Patrimonio. So there's a few odds and ends that I can play with, more than Own Boys and some of the ones that aren't as smoked. So for example, the Southern Draw, the, oh my gosh, the Firethorn. That's one of my personal favorites. I also do love the Rosa Sharon, though I can't really make that comparison. But yeah, that comparison.
That's a tough comparison. That's
exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't work. You like Rosa Sharon, but that doesn't. You know,
that's a unique cigar unto itself.
Even I, on this end, I would think of a lot of the stuff that Aroa has, used a lot of Corojo, and we're using Corojo here. So if you're looking for that wrapper, I would think of, I know the question was for Alec, but that immediately popped into my head. I know Christian does a lot of stuff with Corojo, and, you know, if you want that wrapper, well, you're going to get it in a lot of CLE stuff. So anyway.
There's also
what's the age on the wrapper? So where did you source this wrapper from?
My dad's the one that sourced it, right? So he got it, and we haven't been to the factory since early 2020. I don't know how he found it. I know that let me back up a little bit. We're very, very careful to not start on a project and not be able to get that tobacco consistently, at least as promised.
Oh yeah.
So my dad was able to get it. And I don't know if he got it from Domitab or Enatab or Grand Island Group. I don't know where he got it, and I can ask him. I just haven't. But I know he gets it consistently, and obviously production's going on. Because the one thing you can't ever change in a cigar for the consumer is that wrapper. I can play with fillers a little bit. Nicaraguan filler is not doing as well this year as it was 2 years ago. Maybe I'll amp it up with some Pennsylvanian, and the consumer won't be offended. But they'll be able to tell, but they won't be offended. But if I'm changing a Corojo to an Habano, yeah, that's way off the deep end. I can't do that. So the wrapper is a really integral and important part of what the cigar is. And my dad is really good at it. We wanted Corojo to be a part of this no matter what. That was not negotiable. Yeah, and he found it. I know it's Honduran, and I don't know if we're getting it through a third party, like those companies that I just mentioned that they buy from other companies like the Aroas. That's probably the case. We're not buying directly from them, but yeah. It's Honduran Corojo. From where? I don't know. Obviously from Honduras, but from which selling party, I don't know. I can't find out. Next time we're on with you, I'll let you. I'll give you that answer.
Yeah, we'll pick it up again. We'll pick it up.
It's not even a secret, right? When we see each other at TP, I'll let you know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me take a fast break. I'm going to give a shout out to the sponsors of the show today, and then we'll come back. We'll talk some more Patrimonio, and we'll try to get into a little bit about what's going on with Casa Cuevas going forward and how the business is. So today's show is brought to you by El Chan Cigars. El Chan Cigars, welcome to the dream come true. Husband and wife Gabby, El Chan, and Liz, they want all the hands that work the tobacco leaf in their home country of Puerto Rico to have the same opportunity to expose their products. They call it La Jolla del Chan because they cultivate part of their product, and at some point they want to be able to supply the world with their native tobacco leaf. The pride that Gabby and Liz feel is the same pride of all those who work the tobacco leaf, and for this, they deserve a portal that represents them. Thank you for supporting our country, they say. We will resist. You can follow them at www.lajolladelchan.com and on Facebook and Instagram under El Chan Cigars. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Platinum Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova is a family-owned and operated premium cigar company. Only the highest vintage tobacco and the most skilled hand workmanship go into the making of each Platinum Nova cigar, resulting in a timeless blend of art and craftsmanship. The Nova brand and the family's work are a tribute and an honor to their grandfather in always remembering him and his infinite passion for the finest cigars. Their love for cigars started with their grandfather, a dedicated master blender and entrepreneur in the cigar industry. So the next time you're looking for that exquisite cigar experience, pick up a Platinum Nova. You can check them out at Platinum Nova Cigars at www.novacigar.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can use the code BostonJimmie15 while this ad's running, and you get 15% off your order on their website. And lastly, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Rodriguez Cigars. Rodriguez Cigars in Key West is the oldest factory on the island. Founded in 1984, it goes back to 1947 when the Rodriguez family began the masterful art of cultivating tobacco on their private plantation in the town of Siguane. The tobacco plantation was called La Finca de Carmencita, located in the Las Villas province of Cuba. Of course, in 1952, they employed over 20 workers and grew over 120,000 pounds of tobacco annually. 8 years later, unfortunately, Castro government nationalized the industry and they fled to the United States. In 1971, they found a beginning in a beautiful island of Key West. And in 1984, they created the oldest cigar manufacturer in the Florida Keys, preserving the historical cigar manufacturing industry that began in Key West in 1831. So if you're ever down in Key West, this is the only place I'm going to tell you to go to check out Rodriguez Cigars. And I'm going to tell you, if you're ever there, go take the tour that they offer, which will walk you through. Danny DeFabio, the owner, will walk you through a complete seed to palate presentation, and you'll get to roll your own cigar. You get to take away as a giveaway. With that, I'd like to thank my sponsors, for without them, this show is always a little harder to do. And let's get back to the Cuevases. Okay, so you get this blend. What do you go through when you consider the vitolas that you're going to put this blend on? I mean, what did you blend it to start with?
Always a Toro.
Always the Toro. So
Always a Toro. And we're always going to start with a Toro, whether it's a 52 gauge or a 50 gauge. It's always a Toro to start. And then what we do is what we did with our initial launch with Casa Cuevas 4 years and change ago. The best selling sizes in the US are Toro, Robusto, and a 60, a Gordo, if you want to call them a 60, whether it's an XO or whatever. So they've got to be sort of part of the fray. Beyond that, you look at something like Lavandaria, it's a 6x52 and it's standalone, but that was because of the theft and everything else and just kind of caught fire on its own. If not, would have come out with other vitolas. But you always blend to a Toro, and then from there, the blends will vary. If we're using, for example, the Toro Gordo that we have, the Robusto Gordo that we have for Patrimonio is a 54. Then you blend up and with a 60 as well. Then if we did, actually, there's some Lanceros that we did for a wedding in California for my very, very special broker and friend out there, Christine Odell. And that was kind of cool that my dad was able to do that. That was a one and done, right? It was just for a birthday party. But we always start with the Toro and then move either up or down, depending on the gauge. But we usually always are going to have a Toro in anything we do. It seems to be the size of choice for a lot of consumers from what I've seen. And then when we go, from shop to shop and you get acquainted with these people and they open up to you, then I'll ask the question, what's your best selling size? And it's a Toro. It just is. Like Connecticut's. I mean, as much as people frown upon Connecticut's, it's still the best selling wrapper in the United States. It just is. Yes, everybody wants a chest buster and everybody wants something more full bodied and more oomph to it and more nuance. But Connecticut is still the way to go. It just is. So, you know, at this point, we've got a couple of Connecticut's in our lineup between the Reserva and the core line Connecticut. So it was time to move away. What Alec was saying, come out with something that we hadn't used at all. And when you're saying, hey, using Corojo, and we hadn't used it before, oh my gosh, that piques some interest, right? As another Maduro, another Habano, another Connecticut. I mean, and there's plenty of wrappers out there, but that's the one we went with, and we were able to procure it. And I was a big fan of the Corojo wrapper anyway, and other brands that I had smoked. And then Alex stepped in and just solidified it, and here we are.
Casa Cuevas and your Los Lavas factory down in the Dominican. Before you branched into your own brand, you have been for generations making cigars for a number of small and even very large companies in the industry. During that time, did you get to use Corojo and other? You've never ever breached into Corojo in all those years?
No, sir.
Wow. Oh,
Kind of cool.
So what about now going forward? Are you interested in playing more with that leaf?
Yes, and at the same time, no. So if you notice, we launched our core line, and then 2 years later, we did La Mandaria and the Reservas. And now 2 years later, almost a year and change later, we came out with this one. So I think if we came out with another Corojo soon, we'd be cannibalizing this one. Let this one get its legs, do its thing, and then maybe in the future we'll do it. But it's going to be way down the line. As a matter of fact, Alec and I were in Tampa a couple of days ago, and we were looking at the Olivas, the Tampa Olivas, who are huge tobacco purveyors. And we came out of there with a bunch of different wrappers, binders, fillers, but mostly the wrappers that we are really interested in playing with, all of which are completely alien to anything else we've done so far. So our next project going forward is going to be with something that hasn't been used in our lineup. Other people have used it, clearly, but we haven't used it up yet. And that one, interestingly enough, it's going to be in July, and Lord willing, if everything goes the way it should, that's going to be Alex Baby. We're planning on launching 2 new lines in July at PCA. And those will be, one of them is a Mandaria rebooted, which I've been talking about for years. I couldn't find a wrapper and whatever. We're still searching, but it's going to happen. And the other is Alex Baby completely. Like, he's going to blend the entire thing. Yes, we'll have input into we like it, we don't like it, but Alec's going to be the one that's going to be completely in control of this. And the starting point for all of it is a wrapper that we have not yet used, whether it's Nicaraguan or broadleaf or whatever, Sumatran, Cameroon, something. But it won't be anything that we've used before. So we're, it's exciting. He's a little nervous about it.
Oh, definitely.
So a couple more comments from the audience. Danny Benedette said,
"Yeah, hey Dan,
smoking a Patrimonio, drinking an old fashioned."
Right on.
That's a
perfect choice.
There you go. I like that. Joe Schmo. Thank you guys for your incredible knowledge and passion for making cigars. I will also bring down one more comment from Joe. Joe says, when we're speaking rappers, he goes, Eminem is Alec's favorite rapper.
Actually, Eminem is my favorite rapper, but I'm serious. I have him on my playlist all over the place when I run.
I definitely vouch for that.
It's funny when if I'm not typing notes into my phone still has not figured out that when I say the word rapper, it's supposed to have a W in front.
Yeah, I know.
Leaving it as an R. It drives me crazy. You would think after all these years, the smartphone would be smart.
Will be smart.
Correcting it.
I know. I know. I was telling Alec yesterday when I text and I speak the darn thing into it. I got to spend more time editing it than I would have had I typed it to begin with, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like I love that people like have to they're texting somebody, so they're speaking the text. And I said,
Mhm.
why don't you just push the phone button and call them?
Right, the old-fashioned way.
You know, we're gonna get back to like Morse code soon. I should take out my Morse code. Just
Start doing that. Dot, dot, dash, dash.
Tyler Garcia asked, have you considered using a Sumatra?
Yeah. We picked up some Sumatra at the Olivas a couple of days ago. We were in Tampa, Alec and I, and we're going to play with it. We're going to play with it.
We're gonna see what we can come up with.
But again, that's Alec's baby. It's going to be
I
Alex.
like Sumatra as a binder. I've always liked the binder. That's like the Boston Jimmie cigar I did, the San Andreas wrapper with the Sumatra binder. And it just gives you that nice core of sweetness that just kind
That
of
sweetness is there. You
Oh.
smell that tobacco raw. We were talking about that at the office. You smell that tobacco raw, and you can smell the sweetness in it. It's pretty amazing.
you're hopped off.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I do love that. I do love that leaf. What is some of your most favorite leaves to work with? Strains of leaf.
I love working with Colombian tobacco, and a lot of people don't. Not that they don't like work
Very
with it.
nutty.
A lot of people maybe don't work with it. I think it offsets. We use it in all our Connecticut's. It offsets the bitterness from the Ecuadorian Connecticut that has that tendency to be a little bit bitter, a little bit harsh. I think it works really well. It doesn't give you strength per se. It doesn't give you a whole lot of oomph, but when you use it with other components that may be a little harsh, it offsets them some. So that's one that I really enjoy. I do enjoy the Mexican San Andres, but we used it twice already. And so I don't want to come up with another Maduro with San Andres. I'd like to come up with something different. But,
I heard that's hard to come by right now. That
Mhm.
leaf. It's becoming a little less available.
It's really tough to get, but then again, the Maduro selection has become pretty difficult. We've been looking for years now for a Brazilian wrapper that I wanted to use Matafina,
Oh yeah.
which is another one I'm fond of, in my the Mandaria project that we wanted for July, and just can't get it. And then when we broke it down and went on to Cubra, also Cuban Brazilian leaf, we couldn't get the right leaf that we were looking for. That's hard to find. Anything from Brazil right now is almost impossible. As a matter of fact, I posed the question to the Olivas when I was there, and they just said, no, we don't have any, we can't get any, so forget about it. It's become really, really tough to get.
Oh yeah.
That one's almost impossible to get. Mexican
How about you, Alec? What is your favorite one? Some of your
Well,
favorite leaf?
I'm actually glad my father mentioned it. So hopefully you guys can hear me. There's a plane passing by.
Yeah.
Mexican San Andres. I love, and I genuinely do love. It carries this semi-sweetness. Like that's the thing. And what I like the most about it, I'm very big into the flavor profiling of the cigar. I do enjoy the cigars to carry a bit of a sweet note. And yeah, the Colombian does help towards that, especially if you blend it with the right amount of tobacco. But the Mexican San Andres does a superb job with that. That's something that, for example, for a core line Maduro, which was actually the very first cigar I've ever smoked during the prototype stages way back in 2017, essentially. I fell in love with that cigar. Now, mind you, it was my first cigar. I couldn't finish it. I got about halfway through and then I, greened out. I did not properly smoke a cigar at the time, to be fair. But that is one of my personal favorites. I do love a good Mexican San Andres. And considering what I've smoked, it has always left me wanting. And that's something that I've always found interesting about that wrapper in particular. It always leaves you wanting in regards towards you want to pick it up. Not that it's missing something, but that you'll always go back to it. So I found myself quite often going back to more of the Maduro stuff, especially when I was working at Neptune that carried Mexican San Andres. Now, as binder and filler and everything else going forward, it doesn't necessarily do it for me. For me, it's just the capa, the wrapper in particular, that really sets it apart. Another big
I'm sorry, Alec, for cutting you off, but we did pick up some San Andres filler, which we're going to play with.
Yes, which is something that we found extremely interesting at that. So that's something that, for example, that's why we ended up in Tampa, actually, as a matter of fact, to see, pick up, and experiment going forward. as my father said, nervous about the future project in regards towards my own blend. I think that not necessarily it's a lot of pressure, but I do want to create something that, simply put, fits my bill and is a damn good smoke. Something that my father tends to say very often, with a damn good smoke. So that's something that I'm trying to fit the bill with. And Mexican San Andres filler is just intriguing. When he showed it to us, me and my father, right off the bat, we had the same look on our face. I mean, mind you, we look the same. We almost sound the same at this point too over the phone. But but when we both saw the Mexican San Andres filler, we were both like, this should be very interesting to play with, especially considering with how my grandfather prefers blending things and what we currently have in the wheelhouse and what we just finished receiving from a separate wheelhouse. So it's intricate in its nature, but it's something that's genuinely exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Mexican San Andres would be quite literally one of my go-tos. One of my go-tos.
I'll tell you this quick little story on Mexican tobacco. I remember, God, it had to be 30 years ago. 30 years ago at least. Okay, I had a friend of mine that went to Mexico. He wasn't a cigar smoker, but he knew I was. And he came home with Mexican cigars. This is not a fake Cuban story. This is Mexican cigars, right? And he says, I got these for you, Jimmie. They open up the bag, and they're just like, these cigars were as black can be, as black as my background almost, right? I'm going, and this is like, you're talking 30 years ago. I'm like going, what is this? I've never seen such an oscuro cigar in my life at that point. But he goes, this is the Mexican leaf. This is this is what they told me. This is really good. So I said, okay. So I bring him home. I fired one up, and I thought I was going to die. Right? Because it was the spice pepper. It was just destroyed the whole way through. And I wonder, Mexican San Andreas has become very popular over the last decade. Was I smoking the San Andreas back then, you think? Was that something else coming out?
But you know what? You were telling me you were smoking a Mexican cigar, so there was probably more Mexican tobacco in there than just a wrapper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as a result, everything gets accentuated all the more. This is just one component of the entire cigar. So like anything else, when you blend it, and we're big on blending, I have to give credit to the Terranos for really turning us on to this whole blending thing, because in their cupboard, when they had their factories in Honduras, in Nicaragua, they had a huge array of different tobaccos. I mean, Carlos Sr. would buy tobacco from Italy, from all over the place. And it was amazing the way they came out with really good cigars, because the Terranos were kings once upon a time, right? They were a phenomenal brand. And it was all based on putting stuff together and playing with it. So perhaps that San Andres that you smoked was San Andres with other Mexican tobacco in it. And so that's what gave you that flavor profile. You're going like, wow, this is overly harsh. And I do remember those really dark cigars, that the Amo cigars. Remember, they were
the Amo, yeah.
Yeah. Back in the 90s and whatnot. And they were pitch black.
They were
bloody black. And they weren't coated in oil. They weren't smoking everywhere. They were just dark as hell. I remember also that the Torrents were really the only game in town to get them from, that wrapper anyway. So yeah, things have evolved. Things have changed. Now you can get San Andres that's not quite as dark.
I've seen it in all shades now.
All hues, right? It's kind of, things have evolved. Things change. What we do at our factory is, in order to get sort of an equal look for the wrappers, we have steamers, like a Bain Marie. It's only one, but one does the job. It's one huge, gigantic steamer, and literally like a Bain Marie, the vapor gets into that tobacco. Then from there, you transfer it over to very, very cold, like a freezer type setting. Leave it there for X amount of time, and then you let the leaves out, and the color kind of becomes even all the way through.
I remember
And
you showed us that when we were at the factory years ago.
that's it. You don't have to alter it. You don't got to play with it. You don't have to, put oils on it and whatever. And a lot of people do. A lot of brands do, and that's okay. That's within the rules. Saying we don't do that, and it's kind of neat. But still, I remember those pitch black cigars you're talking about. I remember that distinctly. They were just the color of night. It was incredible. It was incredible.
So let me go down another educational moment for those that are watching. Box press versus traditional press.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on it? What does a box press really do for you other than aesthetics?
I think for the box press, aside from aesthetics, for me personally, I like the way it sits within my teeth. So I like to chew on my cigars, and the box press automatically becomes like a chiclet almost, right? You're on it. I like that a lot. I also like the fact that the box press, because you have less filler in there, allows that wrapper and that binder to really pop. So if you're looking for that to come out, but in a bigger gauge than, let's say, a 43 or a 38, where obviously you're going to have less filler in because the gauge is smaller. Here you have, let's say, our box press, which is a 6x48. Well, that 48 from a 50 is nothing in difference in diameter. It's 1/32 of an inch when you break it down. But yet you can't put as much filler in it as you normally would in a regular 48, because when you smush it in submission, they all come out round. They all come out round initially from the mold, and then you got to squash it down. Well, if you got too much filler in there, it's going to burst the wrapper, right?
Right. Yeah.
But still, because it's a bigger gauge, you have less tobacco, but more tobacco than you would in a 43. And it still allows that wrapper and that binder to really make its way up. So if the manufacturer wants you to really taste that wrapper and that binder, I think box press is the best of both worlds. It offers you the opportunity to really taste that while at the same time enjoying a lot of the filler that would be lost in a 43 or a 38 or a 36 or anything small like that.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody geeked up on that one, but sorry if I bored everyone with that.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, so if you have have you ever created a cigar that was same Vitola, but one traditional round and the other one box press, like a Toro that is?
Yeah, in our core line, we have a pressed and a Maduro and the Habano in our core line, and some people absolutely fell in love with it. It'd been around for a while until we got a secondary label that essentially says pressed on it now. But up until then, we had trouble selling it because the consumer, when he's looking at it on the shelf, doesn't see anything other than two cigars that they see a Toro next to something else that looks almost identical to a Toro, and they're thinking, why is this one more expensive? I'm going to buy the Toro. And a lot of people didn't know we had that pressed. When we got that secondary label, that made all the difference. Actually, I'm going to send you some, and we'll see each other in January in a few weeks. We'll still have some at the trade show, but we've done it. We've done it, and there is a difference in flavor profile between.
I was going to say that's the experiment, right?
There is absolutely.
Smoke the same blend, right? Basically, in a box pressed and a non-box pressed, and treat your palate to the different nuances you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, totally. And you can be a novice smoker and you will notice the difference. Guarantee you.
I believe it's because the box press, and this is somewhat piggybacking on what my dad said in regards towards the wrapper and the binder really popping, it's a slower smoke as well. So you get to really taste all those nuances in that transition and see it through and through.
It's a slow smoke.
And I think that offers just a different experience for your typical cigar smoker. So some people genuinely enjoy the box press, like my father, for example, because you can go on ahead and bite on it. And it's something that, like, there's a lot of biters. I personally, I know a lot of, I'm still friends that keep in touch with the regular consumers that would have walked into Neptune's that only smoked box press. And I remember they would get upset when there was a new cigar on the market and it wasn't in that Vitola, because they specifically love chewing on it. And I asked one in particular, because I wasn't a really big box press guy. To this day, I'm still not that much of a big box press guy. I prefer your Robusto size. I do like the quicker smokes. And he told me, you know what, it just brings this different experience and I can't explain it. Lo and behold, I found myself smoking box press cigars for a good 2 months or so. And that's when I genuinely noticed that, yeah, there is a distinct difference. And that difference comes from the slower smoke. So it's interesting. It's an interesting vitola.
So let me do another quick little break off. I'm going to do what's new in news and reviews on Stogie Press, and when I come back, I want to dig a little bit into the factory. Talk about your factory. I'd like to know the growth, what's been going on, and then we'll do a little round robin of maybe some lightning round questions.
Okay.
So this past week was nice. I went through a number of reviews. The first one I want to talk through is the Black Star line cigars, the Dark Warwich. So they came out with this Warwich a year and a half ago or so. This is their new one. This is the dark one. It's comes out of Aganorsa this time. It's a box press Corona, and it's got a Corona 99 wrapper with a Nicaraguan binder and filler. Flavors on this, I was getting, I guess, nice cedar and cinnamon, some cocoa, honey. There was a definite honey note in this cigar, which I really enjoyed. Had some leather and some natural sweetness that really kept things balanced. So the honey and the natural sweetness just kind of kept this cigar nicely balanced in pepper and spice. Beautiful cigar, very nicely constructed. Had a very decent burn on it all the way through. A nice little burn cone on it coming down. So this overall, very nice cigar. Give this one a pretty solid 94. The next one we looked at was from La Vida Habano Cigars. La Vida Habano is a small company that's been branched off. This particular one was their Maduro Lancero. This one is coming out of Costa Rica, out of Tabacos de Costa Rica. It's an Ecuadorian Criollo 98 with a Nicaraguan binder. And wow, that's weird. Why did that show up like that? That's bizarre. I have to fix that. And it's got a Nicaraguan, Peruvian, and Brazilian filler in it. There was a bit of a bitter note in this later in the burn, I believe, but there was some caramel notes, cedar, citrus, cocoa, dark chocolate. These notes kind of became more prevalent. There was some earthy, it was floral in the beginning. There was some pepper and spice that came through. So pleasurable along the way. These cigars come in a number of different vitolas. This particular one was the latest addition to that lineup. Comes in at about $9.50. You get these at Pravada Cigar Club. So again, nicely constructed. It's got a kind of a closed foot on it. Nice little burn going through it. Very nice burn cone. A little bit of an off burn near the end, kind of. So overall, very nice. Like I said, there was this bitter note that came in midway, and then had added some cedar to it that just kind of toned it back down. So very nice cigar. You can check this one out. The next one was the Adventura. Finally got around to smoking this. I was sometimes I rotate my humidor and I find cigars that I forgot I had. Oh my goodness, I have the Conqueror Emperor's edition. So this is the extension to their line. This one here came in at the 95. This is a spectacular cigar. It uses an Ecuadorian H2000 wrapper with an Ecuadorian Sumatra binder and Nicaraguan and Dominican fillers. $11.50 cigar. This is what they call this one a Lonsdale. It originally was released in 2019. You could still get these. Very nice cigar. Flavors through this were absolutely scrumptious as I was going through it. Really nice burn, beautiful ash for a small ring gauge cigar. And a really well-defined burn cone as it came down. You get some spice on the front end of this, and then you get into this very soft, fruity citrus tang evolves, and then you get some floral notes. Eventually transitions some earthy and cocoa with a little bit of dry leather, And then it has some nice light cream, balance things out through the final third. So a very pleasurable cigar. Really, the only thing I deducted was this little mild jag it had in the second half. So definitely a fine cigar. And then the last one, just put this one up today, I believe, or yesterday. This is the Geronimo cigars, and I'm going to botch this so Spanish folks can help me. Principio, okay? And Principio means the beginning, okay?
Yep.
This is one of their cigars. They had this in a Dominican blend. This is now the San Andreas Maduro blend on this. It's got a Jalapa binder and Esteli, Jalapa, and Condega fillers in it. They came out with this one in 2021 as an extension to their line. They're making this at the Matavia factory. This $9.67. This one here had some cream and dark chocolate, some earth, some fruit, it got a little bit of licorice. You get that licorice sometimes that kind of like stings your lips, and I'm like, goodness gracious. And some natural sweetness, some nuttiness in this that was nice, and some pepper. Comes in a single Vitola, or it's a 5.5 by 52. This is a couple of young men over in Tampa, Florida, Ariel, Geronimo, and Jorge Rodriguez. They've been doing this since like 2015, and they really started this whole thing rolling in 2017 with their original blend on this. So this one came out really nice, beautiful, oily looking cigar, really nicely constructed, and very nice ash, and very beautiful burn coming through. The burn cone came down, the ash dropped beautifully, really came down. They got dinged a little at the end here because it kind of went off a little bit, but it never needed to touch it with the lighter. So beautiful notes running through. You get a chance to check out this particular company, Geronimo. I know you can get these at GFP Cigars. So those are the reviews. If I go to the news, a few news things that came out. Blackworks Studio, this is James Brown's factory down in Nicaragua. They've announced their Intergalactic, which is going to be a dark Sumatra with an Ecuadorian Habano and a Nicaraguan filler. They're coming in two Vitolas, a Robusto for $10.50 and a Corona Larga for $10.50. So they're both $10.50 at this. But check these out. They should be hitting the shelves soon. We put out the Cigars of the Year show from last week. That's out there now on the YouTube channel. So if you go there, you can actually watch that again if you want. And then JC Newman announced they have a contest that they're running right now. I think it's through April, where you could become part of the JC Newman story. All you got to do is click this, and you'll get into a form that you can enter. You get one entry per person, and what you win is these beautiful rocks glasses. They give away a number of these rocks glasses to people that go in there. So if you want to get in that contest, you just click on this link in here, and you'll be entered. So that's the news and reviews on Stogie Press. And I'll come back to the show here. All right. The factory. So I was down in your factory years ago. I was down there with your friend and mine,
Ryan Gallimore.
Well, I'm trying to remember. He's little Ryan Gallimore.
Little Ryan.
And who's now works at Jewish State.
Something like that.
But we were down there also with one of my local shops. He wanted to get a house cigar done. You did a lot of that work. Are you still doing that work now with the expansion of the Casa Cuevas brand?
We are, but things really slowed down in terms of having people show up and pursue their dream of having a brand when the FDA scared the hell out of everybody.
Right.
And, that was sad to see. And I understood people's position, right? Here you are, you pour all this money into this project, and next thing you know, the government comes and pulls the rug under your feet. And then those who wanted to pursue the proper measures and do it the right way, well, there was never any guideline given. It's just you can't do it. And if you did it, all these numbers, astronomical numbers for Vitola were coming out. And remember, it was impossible. So that unfortunately did away with a lot of the smaller brands that wanted to branch out, because face it, folks, everybody started small. Everybody started small. I mean, the biggest brands that you guys know of out there, they all started from scratch. Well,
yeah, my father, I remember when my father hit the scene back
goodness.
in the 90s, it was like we were all smoking all these really big brands at the time.
Yep.
Hoya de Monterrey and things like that.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Cigar Aficionado came out and talked about this company, my father, and it was all the rage. It was like, and we all ran out trying to find this cigar.
Correct.
Every shop was clamoring to get him in the shop.
I remember in the 90s, La Gloria from Korea, the very first, those La Glorias in the 90s, they were amazing, amazing. I'm not saying they're not bad or good now. That's not my point. Back then, they were incredible. And that kind of thing died down a lot. So we are seeing a resurgence of it now. I'm getting more phone calls from people saying, hey, I want to try, I want a new blend. Actually, we ended the year with 3 or 4 individuals who want to try and create their own line.
Yeah.
And that's nice to see. It's good to see. I think it's healthy. And I think unlike the 90s, it's a great time to be a cigar smoker because there are so many phenomenal brands out there right now. In the 90s, there was a lot of crap. That boom came and all sorts of people coming out with just really junky, crappy cigars. That's not the case anymore. Because
the last 4 years,
Mhm.
I am amazed at what comes into me.
Yeah.
Just sitting there going, wow, they're working with the right factories. The factories are doing it right. They're taking care of even the smallest of their clients because they want to sell tobacco.
Yep.
Okay. They want anything coming out of their factory is going to be recognized as, well, this is the factory that created this cigar.
That's correct.
All these reviews now, right? So they recognize that they want excellence across the board. Where before it was kind of like, yeah, maybe you got 1 out of 3 Vitolas was the best.
That's not the case anymore, and it's a great time to be a cigar smoker, and it's also again healthy to watch and see individuals come out with new lines, because for a while, I mean, people were afraid, and rightly so. I mean, this is not a cheap thing to get into. It's not an inexpensive thing to get into, and you're putting a lot of effort and time and money into something that may not make it because governmental powers say no. Or if they do say yes, it's so expensive that you can't. Or they tell you to jump through hoops that don't exist, but they're telling you to jump through the hoops anyway. I mean, there was a lot going on. And now there seems to be a change. And hopefully going forward, there's new brands out there that are going to come on the market. And I'm a big fan. I know maybe counterintuitive. I'm a big fan of people smoking other things. I want people. I smoke other things, for Christ's sake, folks. I've said this time and again. Every time I get an opportunity, I preach this. A cigar smoker is like a scotch drinker or a wine drinker. I love my IPAs. I don't get married to one brand. I love my scotches. I don't get married to one brand. I love my cigars. I get bored of my own stuff. So it's okay to have a humidor that's well stocked. And today you're in the mood for this, and tomorrow you're in the mood for that, and that's
Right
okay.
on.
That's the way it's done. There's room for everyone here. You don't eat pizza every day. You don't eat hot dogs every day or steak every day. You have a variety. And if you do eat a steak, you're in the mood for a ribeye, or you're in the mood for a fillet or a New York strip. I mean, there's variety. So it's good to see that. And competition drives the world, man. It just does.
Yeah.
It just does. It makes everybody better.
Now, if somebody wanted to reach out to you and wanted to create a brand and wanted you to do the manufacturing of their cigars. One, I guess they could just reach out to you,
Yeah.
Cuevas on Facebook, right?
They reach out to me, and then I reach out to my dad, and then the project gets going, and I'll get on the phone with them. Usually what I'll wind up doing is we'll have a conversation, but aside from that, I like to let them know the stuff that they don't know. So if the cigar is I'm gonna charge you X for the cigar, keep in mind that bringing it into the country, S-chip, user fees, all those things are gonna tack on a price.
Sure.
And a lot of times you're a little bit shell shocked by what that number is going to be, but there's a formula to it. And I'll give them the formula. I give them the formula. Here are the numbers. Here's the way it's going to work. Keep in mind that your cigar may go up from what you purchased it from the factory, another 70 cents up to $1, depending on how many you're bringing in.
Sure.
So keep that in mind. And then you've got the boxes, then you've got the bands, and there's a huge wait time on these things too. So the cigars are the easiest thing. I can crank those out. Great. Now you got a bunch of naked sticks. Well, where are the boxes? Who's making the boxes? Who's making the bands? How long are they going to take? Months.
All right.
So all of those things, understand you want to come out with this, have this great idea in January. It may not be till July when you didn't get the finished product because of the boxes and the bands and all the other nonsense. And then when you bring them all in, now you got to stock them, right? Well, that's going to cost you a lot of money up front between the user fees and the excise taxes, the S-chip, bringing it in, shipping. And then you got to store them, and you're not going to sell them all at once. So prepare yourself financially for that hit. If you're able to, and it's a chess game, then by all means pursue it. And then, of course, they're selling them. That's another tough part. All the humidors, they're all going to tell you, I have no room. I have no room.
Right. Why is your $9
I have no
cigar going to sell faster than its $9 cigar?
Correct.
Now,
So
do you have
all of that goes into it?
Do you have a bonded warehouse in Miami?
Well,
It's just a distribution center over here in Miami.
But it's not bonded, so we pay everything up front within 10 calendar days through All American Tobacco. Chuck Geraji, who owns it, he brings in a lot of stuff for a lot of different brands, but he brings in our stuff too. So they pay the stuff up front, and within 10 days we reimburse them, and then the cigars have to be there so I can, and Alec can send them off to wherever parts of the country. Whenever we do sell internationally, and we have a pretty, we have 5 or 6 countries that we sell to internationally. That goes directly from the Dominican, because it makes no sense to pay all those fees coming into the States and then ship them out from the States. So there you give those individuals a break from the get-go, and it adds up in a hurry. It adds up in a hurry. Just kind of do the math. If you're bringing in 10,000 cigars and let's say round it up to 60 cents, you got to come up with $6,000 without having sold a single cigar, right? And the number goes up. If you're bringing in 100,000, then you're cranking out maybe $58,000 initially before you sold those 100,000 cigars.
Yeah, you haven't sold a single cigar, and you've got a lot invested to do that. And hopefully that is the incentive to get out there, hit the road, and do your thing. And
you have to.
Successful businesses that I've associated myself with are those that take it extremely serious. They're on the road. They're constantly driving around.
Yep.
They're going from shop to shop, making appointments. And please, if you're going to go do a shop, make an appointment with the shop. Don't go in for the shop. That okay.
Don't do that, and don't park directly in front of the shop. Don't do that either, because that's reserved for the consumers. I'm serious about these little things. Don't show up as soon as they open up at 10 in the morning, and you make that. So therefore, make that damn appointment. I mean, all those things. Be respectful of these individuals. But you're gonna walk in, and they're gonna truthfully tell you, "Hey, listen, I want to bring it in. It's a great cigar. Give me 3 months." Well, you got to wait your 3 months, and you may take you 6, 7 visits before the guy says, "Okay, I'm ready for you." And in the meantime, you've got all this money poured into this product. So don't quit your day job and prepare yourself financially. And because again, every brand out there that you think is huge started small.
Now, what is the last question on the factory? What is the smallest order you take from an individual?
5,000 cigars.
Okay.
5,000 cigars.
So there you go, people. If you want to get into the business, if you're interested in something you want to try, think you want to do, I know this factory. I have a lot of respect for this factory. This is one of those factories that does do this work for small brands. So if you're looking for a small brand factory based out of the Dominican Republic, you talk to Casa Cuevas and the Las Lavas factory down in Santiago.
Absolutely.
You take a trip to Santiago, believe me, Luis or whoever's there is going to show you a good time anyway, because it's part of the jam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lightning round, quick. We'll close this out shortly because we're a little bit beyond the hour.
That's fine.
Been a great show. I had told people we got a fun show, be very educational. We'll start with Alec. What have you been streaming lately?
What have I been streaming lately? Wow, what have I been streaming lately? So what I've been watching, I know I'm supposed to make this slightly fast. So what I've been watching lately, mostly what I've been watching lately is mostly due to my girlfriend. I'm a huge fan of anime, but lately I've been going more towards shows like You. I don't know if you're familiar with the show You. So it's a very intricate little weird show per se. It's about a dude. He's a librarian, very intelligent human being as it is, but he also doubles back as a murderer per se. So it's this entendre of him being intelligent and somewhat trying to finagle his way through these odd situations, and yet he's carried like these traumatic tendencies from when he was a child. That's what I've been watching now, and it's as convoluted as it sounds. The show is convoluted, so that's what's thus far been keeping me intrigued with the show. It's just that personality thing. Yeah, I know it's like How to Catch a Murderer, but it's from the perspective of the murderer, right?
There you go. Thank you. Luis, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
I'm sorry?
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Green Bay.
And who they play? Who are they going to play?
Wow. I would say Kansas City.
All right. Kansas City, Green
Yep.
Bay. That should be an interesting Super Bowl.
Yeah. I think the AFC really is Kansas City's to lose, and I know they lost the other day, but I think they are pretty much a force to be reckoned with. And Green Bay is just solid, man. They're just solid. And as weird a cat as Aaron Rodgers is, boy, the guy can play. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. So that's my guess. I'm a Dolphins fan for anybody that's out there, but I know we don't have a quarterback and we stink, and whatever.
But you still have a perfect season.
Super Bowl, but anyway.
You're the only one with a perfect season, and you're living by 70.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Right now I'm all about the Bucks. I'm all Tom Brady, so I'm all in on Tom Brady. So we'll see how he fares. It hasn't looked good in my book this season. They're still in it. They still did their thing.
Oh, they're in it.
I just, and Brady in postseason is a different Brady in regular season. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out.
The thing with Brady, I mean, the other day when the Dolphins game was out of reach and whatever, we were changing channels and whatnot, and when Brown just stormed off and made his whole show, whatever, and then Brady comes up with nothing left on the clock and essentially just drives him down like, hey, I've done this a billion times. The guy's a monster.
He's like a machine when it gets.
Yeah. It's like, okay, it's my moment to shine here. I'm gonna shine. I'm gonna blind you with my brightness. It's amazing.
So
Alec, what would be your dream car to own?
Whoa.
Wow. Dream car to own, Jaguar. Make and model, I'm not even sure. I'd like a Jaguar. I don't know what my infatuation, like I can't tell you there was a specific moment that I ended up infatuated with that model car, or with the brand. But I do remember when I was younger, we had a white Volvo, and my father and I would do just a lot of driving around and stuff. At this point is when he finally started getting into the fray with the factory in itself, working with my grandfather. So we'd be doing a lot of trips, and every time I'd see a Jaguar, I'd be amazed. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the logo, but I remember from a young age that the Jaguar always stood out.
Your grandfather would make fun of him and say, my dad, and say, oh, he likes it, el gato. He would call it el gato, the cat. He didn't know it was a jaguar, but it was a cat. There was a cat on there, so it was a cat. El gato.
Became the running gag for a good.
We should come out with a cigar called El Gato. I don't know.
There you go.
That's true. That did happen, and yeah.
Luis, I know you like watches. What's your favorite watch brand or favorite watch that you own?
Oh wow. My dad gave me an IWC when I turned 50, which I am very much in love with. My wife gave me a Breitling for our anniversary and Christmas kind of coincide. They're a few days apart this year. But my favorite brand that I have a few of, because it's not terribly expensive, but I just love the way they look, is Bon Messier.
Okay.
Bon Messier. I love those watches. I'm wearing one now. I love those watches. So if I had to pick a brand, it would be that one, and it's not the most out there brand, but out of my favorite, the IWC my dad gave me because it has that meaning to it, and it was really, really cool. And it's, my dad's a simple guy. He doesn't have expensive watches or any of this other stuff, and he can, but he just doesn't. So I know it's, for him to give it to me is really cool, and it's something I can pass on to my son and so forth. So anyway, there it is.
All right, last question for both of you. We'll start with Luis and we'll go to Alec. Men's cologne, yes or no?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Favorite cologne?
Go ahead, Alec. You have one? Which one?
Spice Bomb.
That's mine too. So
Spice Bomb. Who
Spice
makes
Bomb.
Spice Bomb?
Phenomenal. So
I
my
don't know who the hell makes it. My wife buys it, and I love it. I've got a couple of them at home actually, and I love that freaking cologne.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's the kind of cologne that people, I've had dudes compliment me on the damn cologne, and I'm going, wow, okay, cool. Like, dude, what are you wearing? Spice Bomb. So
there you go. All right. Well, that's the show. I want to thank you very much for joining. This has been very entertaining and very educational. I want to thank the viewers for watching. We had some really nice numbers tonight coming and going. We've been hovering well over between 12, 15 people at a time. So it comes and goes. I'm sure these numbers will continue to grow over the week. Next week, I'm shifting the show dates because I'm going down to Miami on Friday. So I won't be able to do a Saturday show. So I'm doing a Thursday show. It's going to be with Mickey Pegg from All Saints Cigars. So Mickey Pegg is a fun character to talk to. And then the show just before TPE will be on Friday night because I fly out Saturday to Vegas. So I'm going to be doing a show on Friday night. I'm working on that right now. Who I'm going to line up. Person I want is still debating whether they can make it. If they can't, I've got some backups to go forward with it. I'll give you guys the last word. We'll start with Alec.
I wanted to say this, and I always say this as a little piece of advice. Just a little educational piece. When it comes to cigars, always give a cigar a second opportunity. I like to leave individuals with that little bit of knowledge because there are some cigars you'll pick up on a first basis and right off the bat, you're quick to put it down. But who knows? It is a man-made product. Give it another go, and you never know. You might actually enjoy it. And once again, thank you guys for the support, especially behind the Patrimonio. That is something that for me has been tickling. I never would have expected such feedback. Truth be told, I'm pretty sure I'm speaking on my father's behalf too in regards to this. But sincerely, thank you guys for smoking our product. There's so many great cigars out there. We genuinely appreciate it.
Well, I'd like to thank you first of all. It's humbling and amazing and uber cool that you chose our cigar of the year this year. It's
Truthfully.
Amazing. I can't put it in words, and I'm a talker, and I can't put it in words. So thank you so very much. Thank you to the consumers, and I guess to piggyback on my son, also don't be off-put by the colors of wrappers. A lot of times that Maduro that you're afraid of may not be the bomb that you think it is. The wrapper is a component. It is not the only component. So if you're a smoker out there and you're just kind of getting started and your thing is Connecticut's, branch out a little bit. Talk to your tobacconist. Say, hey, I want a Maduro that's not going to be overpowering. They're out there. and give yourself an opportunity to kind of evolve and smoke different things. Don't marry yourself to just one thing. Don't be afraid. So anyway.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining the show. And we'll see you next week. And don't forget the Wheel of Wonderfulness next Saturday. Well, I'm sure there's going to be something good in that box too. Tune in for that. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.